Hello, and welcome to everybody's favorite Thursday episode of the Player 3 podcast. Three Topic Thursday coming at you a day early on a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday.
Club going up on a Tuesday.
We missed that, dude. That was yesterday.
Sunday, Bloody Sunday. Monday, da-da, la-da-da. Monday.
Friday, I'm in love.
No. It's Friday. Friday. Gotta get down on Friday. Would have been acceptable. But anyway, for those of you who don't know, this is Three Topic Thursday. We get together every Thursday. We talk about three topics, two really good friends. I am your host, Luke Croft. Alongside me, we have Dizzy. That's already his nickname, Cooper. Sorry if the video quality's a little off. We're late today because the OBS was giving us some fits.
Technology.
And so if the audio isn't syncing up, just close your eyes or switch to another screen. Just listen to Dizzy's sultry voice.
Dude, I almost failed a class in college because of technology.
Why is that?
I had a really junky computer, and I was writing a final. Like, it was the final thing I had to do. And it kept crashing on me, so I had to write that final exam 4 times. That's
what class was that?
Dude, it was a dark time. I forgot. It was my first year, though, so, you know.
Yeah, so no one believed you. Everyone thought you just procrastinated.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
We're coming at you one day early because I am going to be on the road, heading down towards Charlotte tomorrow.
For real?
Yeah, man.
Psh.
Going to see
Pick me up some IKEA stuff, man.
Going to see my in-laws. So we're coming at you a day early for those reasons. You can watch this show live over on twitch.tv/player3podcast, as many of you are doing. And there go the dogs. I think my wife is probably home from helping my niece swim. You want to go push that door shut?
Pleasure.
And if it's a murderer, I mean, better we don't see it coming anyway, right? Is it a murderer?
Duh. It'll take me a few seconds to get back.
Yeah, so we can at least get started on the first topic. But then you can find the archive of this video on youtube.com/player3podcast. And also, if you're wondering where the iTunes thing is, I've got this new computer. I'm trying to figure out where everything's at. I'm trying to figure out how to do everything. Audacity keeps turning our 2-hour podcast episode into a 2.5-second audio clip.
Golly, the audacity of that program.
And so I'm probably just going to have to bring it over to my Mac and do it on a machine that actually knows how to do things. So, you ready to get started?
Sure, let's do it.
I'm feeling weird.
Why is that?
I don't know. It just doesn't. It's not Thursday.
Oh yeah, I gotta go to work here in a little bit, man. Yeah, that's kind of odd.
It's gonna suck. Anyway, first topic, Dizzy. This is your topic, so I'm gonna let you lead in.
Oh, sweet. So, I was just rooting around, thinking of
like a pig in trash.
Yeah, like with my nose, with a pearl necklace on, and
continue.
You ever heard that saying?
Mm-mm.
About the pearls and the pig?
Not about a pig.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever.
I mean, I've heard about tossing your pearls before the swine.
Yeah,
I've
see?
never talked about putting a pearl necklace on a pig.
Well, hypothetically, I was the pig at that moment. So I had to be wearing the pearls.
I understand. It's not that I don't understand. We're going to move on before we both get fired. How's
Gotcha. And I've seen a lot of stuff going on about video game addiction. Now, I never really thought about it before because in my mind, you know, addiction has always been drugs. It's always been these things. But we're seeing this surge in people becoming addicted to a lot of different things. And I was just thinking...
Surge.
Like Surge?
Yeah, people get addicted to Surge.
Well, I'm totally addicted to Mountain Dew.
You are addicted to Mountain Dew. That's why you have diabetes.
Yep. It's just never going to get checked out. So I was thinking, like, do you think people can really get addicted to video games?
The short answer, yes. I just think that there are people with addictive personalities who will be able to get addicted to anything. There are people addicted to binge watching shows on Netflix. There are people that are addicted to buying cars. There are people that you can be addicted to all sorts of things, like the heroin that Seth grows in his backyard.
Yes.
You can be addicted to
it's pretty low quality
of things. What's up, Ager 17? We are talking about addiction in video games right now. So Yeah, I think you can get addicted to video games, and I think we saw evidence of people getting addicted to video games in college. You know, we knew several people who got addicted to World of Warcraft and refused to leave their dorm rooms and flunked out of college as a result. And so I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility to be addicted to video games.
Well, I mean, the simple definition of addiction is just it's a compulsion that gives you that sense of reward. It's like that rewarding stimuli. So pretty much anything that gives you that surge, that surge of dopamine from that, can become instantly addictive. Because I mean, we see it in the thrill of gambling, we see it in the thrill of sexual activities, and we see it evidently in the thrill of playing video games. Mm-hmm. The thing that's really astonishing to me is that in 2013, a bunch of psychologists and doctors actually had a diagnosis criteria to put in the DSM, like the diagnostic manual for mental disorders. It didn't make it because it was inconclusive of the data, but they tried to put that in the mental disorder book. Internet gaming addiction
is like sex addiction in that?
I would figure, because I mean, to me, addiction is very much a umbrella term, and you have so many things underneath there. But it's interesting that it just happened 2 years ago. That they were actually really seriously saying, "Hey, this has a potential to be a real disorder."
Well, I think people are predisposed to get addicted to things. Like I feel like I have an addictive personality. I have a very addictive personality. I'm not the kind of guy who can just eat one chip, as you can tell. You know,
once you pop, you just can't stop, dude.
And I'm one of those guys. Like I get on streaks of like wanting to do things, and so like golfing. You know, I can go a long, long time without golfing, but if I start ever again, which I have, I want to go all the time. Like, I wanted to go like 4 or 5 times last week. I went twice, went once this week already.
Wow.
Want to go again, but I can't because I'm going down to Charlotte. So, so I kind of relate to people with those sorts of personalities, and now I don't view myself as being someone who is addicted to video games by any means. Like, we do this podcast and we have a lot of fun with it, but there are stories of people. And sorry, we can't put the computer screen on today, but we'll get that up and working for next time. But anyway, there's some stories in I was reading this Vice article earlier, and it's about this kid named Brett who was playing droves and droves and droves of video games, and he didn't seem like his parents ever cared, and to the point where he couldn't play games for a while, entered into a deep dark depression, and was almost going to kill himself until a buddy of his called him up and asked him if he wanted to come play video games. And he was like, It's crazy, because someone went from about to take their own life to half an hour later was enjoying it again because he got that ability to game. And then that wasn't even the craziest story. Let's see. There was some others. This is from Vice.com. It says, Brett isn't alone in a struggle with gaming. Over the past decade, we've seen several tragic stories of addicted gamers make international headlines. I'm not even going to attempt to say this name. A boiler repairman in South Korea played StarCraft for more than 50 consecutive hours at an internet cafe before suffering from a fatal heart attack. In China, a man named Zhu Yan died after playing an online game persistently for 2 weeks. And this is the craziest one to me. In America, a woman named Rebecca Christie was sentenced to 25 years in prison after she allowed her daughter to starve to death while Christie was preoccupied with World of Warcraft.
That's not a quick death, dude. That's a prolonged thing. Holy Christ.
And if we read those stories and replaced them with drugs, we would say that person was addicted to drugs. If a mom was so busy shooting up on heroin that she didn't feed her child, we would call that heroin addiction.
Yes, but that kind of leads into what I think about it. When it comes to video game addiction, I think it's an extension of other disorders or other tendencies, because when it comes to heroin, when you start using it, you start using it. But when we start using video games, we didn't instantly become addicted to the point of what that lady's done,
right?
Or to the point of, using once and then constantly being addicted. We have a way of regulating that. So that's why I think it's connected with an extension of other disorders or tendencies in that person.
Oh, every time we move, we're shaking the camera.
Oh.
Empty vials, let us know. So we're just going to have to
know what to do with my hands.
I don't know what to do. Anyway, yeah, I like I said, there have been times in my life where I have, and it's a strong word to use in the context of what we just read, but like there have been times in my life I've been addicted to playing a video game. Like I can remember getting my Xbox 360, getting Halo 3, and that's all I thought about. Like I was preoccupied with it. When I was at school, I was thinking about going home and playing Halo 3 to the point where I neglected schoolwork in order to do it. And I mean, there are obviously varying levels of addiction, but there are varying levels of addiction with every kind of addiction. Like you can have somebody who is a hardcore cocaine user, and you can have people who are recreational cocaine users, but still, you would consider that person to be addicted to it, even if it's just, I do it on the weekends, you know, but it like there's a dependency on these things. And there are people who build a dependency on video games, and you see videos of kids who like get their video games taken away as punishment, and how they freak out because they understand like they are going to go through legitimate withdrawals and all that stuff. So I just played and streamed Terraria for 30 hours Sunday to Monday this past weekend. It was insane. I don't know how I was up that long, and it wasn't planned. I just kept going with the empty vials. Well, and you've got to think about it, man. Like these games make their money off the idea of long-standing staying power. And so games are designed in and of themselves to be addicted. There are people who I watched my mom be addicted to like Farmville on Facebook for months, you know, and those sorts of Facebook games. I don't think she does those things anymore, but like games are designed to have this progressing system within them, or this growing system within them that attracts you to play it over and over and over again. And like, gaming markets to addiction in the first place. Like you have handheld consoles to where I need gaming so much in my life that I have to take it with me when I go somewhere. And I game when I'm on when I'm like going on vacation and I'm not driving, I'm playing my Vita, you know. It's like we do remote play and streaming your consoles to other devices, where it's like it used to be you could just step away from those things, and if I wasn't home, I wasn't going to play video games. But now I can play wherever I'm at, and like it just kind of caters into that addiction. And so I know when you asked me the question, you were like, if you can get addicted to video games, then why aren't we addicted to video games? But I think there have been times where we get addicted and we want to play. Like when Destiny first came out, I played the crap out of Destiny. I got addicted to NCAA football '09 in college, to where like I was obsessed with it. And Triple Play Baseball 2000 on the N64. My brother and I played that all the freaking time. So it was just like you kind of stumble into it. And Race the Sun is probably my most recent one on Vita, where like any spare moment I got, I picked up my Vita to play Race the Sun. And it's never become destructive for me, but I can definitely see the potential of it becoming addictive.
It's very interesting because you were saying Farmville. And I think that kind of goes back to what they were proposing for the DSM, because the thing about the DSM is they're very specific on their wording. They're very intentional on their wording, because this is disorder. These are people's lives here, something that affects them. And the umbrella term that they wanted to add in there was internet gaming. It didn't say anything special about consoles. It just said internet. And 2 years ago, like that's when we had that big surge of like Candy Crush and Farmville and all this stuff users, right?
Yeah.
So I think when I hear internet gaming, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Sauce Boss 3321 says, "Is that a Boston Celtics Rajon Rondo jersey?" It absolutely is. And now my boy's career has gone off to Sacramento to die forever. He's going to turn the ball. That team's just going to be turnover central. Back to what you were saying. The number one game I see when I've looked up stories on gaming addiction is World of Warcraft.
We've seen that firsthand.
And we've seen it, yeah. Like we went to school with guys who, I'm not lying to you, flunked out of school because of World of Warcraft. And I think everyone in life probably knows at least somebody who is addicted to those sorts of things, to the point where they made a South Park episode about it. Like, I think it's got to be a pretty prevailing issue for South Park to try to tackle it.
They made 3, actually.
They made the Guitar Hero episode. Yep, they made the World of Warcraft episode.
And then there... Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. The heroin one is the same episode. Dang.
But did they make the one... Was the one about being ninjas? Was that a video game one? No. They were live-action role-playing on that. But, yeah, like, to the point where And those are games like WoW is one of those games where the level cap is always being moved up. There's always expansions coming out, always more loot, always more dungeons, always. And I don't even begin to try to understand that whole entire universe, and I know at least that much about it. And so people who are into that know like every day there's something to grind for. Like I play Destiny, and the loot system in Destiny is nowhere near as in depth as a game like WoW, and yet you're always wanting that next best thing. Like those games are designed to get you addicted to them.
Exactly.
Because you fall behind so quick. Like you drop WoW for a month. If you're a WoW player, you drop WoW for a month. You're not just jumping back in, like in nothing's changed. Like things change quickly in those things.
But then you also have the people that, see it as their escape, and that does get addictive. Like with the people who aren't, they don't feel like they're really fitting in their society or, around their emotional scenarios and whatever. And I can see how it could get very addicting when you are the hero, when you are better, when you are important. I can see that being a driving factor for a lot of people.
Well, and
being someone.
And I think the reason that we don't get as addicted to games is because we have other things in life that are important to us and that we pour ourselves into and that give us meaning, whereas some people
makes them seem hopeless though.
But I think isn't hopelessness kind of the nature of any sort of addiction? Huh? Like you put your hope in whatever you're addicted to, and that's getting a little more philosophical. Welcome to Philosophy 3 Podcast. But just the whole idea of like, this is who I am, and you start to become like your second life character. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't identify with who I am anymore. I'm just this dwarf fighting in World of Warcraft, and I find my identity in those things. And so, but we find our identity in so many other things. And I think that's just a good practice in life. Like, have yourself poured into a plethora of areas, and you're not going to find yourself dependent on one. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned like the escape from reality idea, and it kind of got me thinking about like VR and how if we see an issue with gaming addiction now, how much more prevailing is that issue going to be when VR gets here? Because right now, when you game, there is a certain suspension of reality that has to take place. And when you're playing WoW, you enter into that with some sort of an understanding that this is not real life. Now, you may not end up there by the end of it, but you go in and you're like, okay, it's not real life. Mm-hmm. But with VR, and the more and more we dive into photorealistic first-person experiences with VR, there are going to be people who get lost in that world. And I think it might blur the lines of what is real reality and what is virtual reality. And I think it's going to be an issue. I think for people who seek out escapes, who lack purpose in other areas of life, they're going to dive into those things, and it's going to be an even worse issue. And I'm not saying that as like a sky is falling and VR is going to be totally bad, but I'm just saying like if we're for the people who have this issue with gaming in the where we're at now in it, then that's going to be an issue with some people. Maybe not a even significant percentage of people, but enough to have a conversation about, I think.
We have a lot of good stuff going on over here.
All right, what do we have? Okay, here's my question. It comes up those empty vials. Here's my question. It comes up a couple of times in my life as a gamer. What's the difference between gaming for 8 hours and watching TV for 8 hours? I have family members that will sit on the couch and watch Netflix, claim that because they're with family, it's not the same as my isolated nature playing games by myself, though they know I'm online and or chatting with friends. And I think that's a great point. Mm-hmm. When I'm gaming, I'm almost always in a party with somebody, talking with somebody, chatting with somebody. When I'm watching a television show, like when I got married, we were we started to kind of like fall into this funk where we would come home and we would just watch TV and my wife stopped us one day and she was like, I just don't want to become that couple that just kind of sits in the same room and doesn't interact with each other. And I feel like those families that like the TV is the center of their life, that's what you get. Whereas like gaming I see as a social experience and not rather than like an escape experience.
But I also don't feel okay when Netflix and Hulu came out, it went from having to watch TV at this time, every night, whatever, to it to being really laid back and relaxed. So, and at least in my personal experience, when I just put on a show, it's super nonchalant. Like I'm not sitting there completely ingrained in it like I would be in a video game, though. I mean, I'm not tooting a horn here, but when my wife and I just have a TV show on, we're talking, playing a game. It's just on. I'm not entirely ingrained in it like I would be in Borderlands or Far Cry.
Yeah.
Huh.
Sauce Boss agrees with you. He says Netflix is love and life. So, yeah, very interesting.
Yes.
And there is this disconnect. Like, people who don't game don't understand games. And it's funny because the people that criticize him for playing 8 hours of gaming are probably the people who any spare moment they get in a waiting room or waiting in a line or whatever, they're on their phone playing Candy Crush or Angry Birds or whatever the hottest trend in mobile gaming is. I don't know. I don't think I have a single game on my phone right now.
I don't. I haven't for a long time.
Let's see.
Well, I have crossword puzzles.
I don't have a single game on my phone. Like I don't see this as something to play games on. But I know people like who would never pick up a controller and would probably judge me for spending as much time as I do with a controller or for hosting video game shows on the internet. But yet they're like playing Candy Crush.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no story, there's no depth to that. Like you're just tapping your screen, tapping. But anyway. Anything else?
Astonishing.
Anything else? Empty Vial says, yes, she does play some type of game that she pops little bubbles all the time. I don't know the name of it. It's probably Candy Crush. But she still watches TV. Yeah. Empty Vials mentions this. The whole idea of, like, you turn on the TV and you're with your friends, and then you look around and everybody's...
Dude, it's a disconnect of a disconnect. What the world?
And I am so guilty of that sort of stuff. Like, I'm addicted to my phone. I may not be addicted to video games. I'm addicted to my phone. If I'm away from my phone, last night we were watching True Detective, and I left my phone on the top of this shelf out here, and I was like, but I don't want to miss any True Detective. I got antsy. I started sweating a little, just a little. Like you walked into the room naked.
Ooh, a little sweaty.
Disconception. That's what Empty Vial says. I like that.
Love it.
All right, moving on. Topic 2. All right, let's. There's two. It's kind of a 2-for-1 here. Halo 5 is no longer going to have split screen in any of its realms, and there was an article on GameSpot where the devs kind of spoke out to why they made this decision. And for some people, there's no explanation that is ever going to be good enough for them. But then to others, they may read this and think, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. I'm in the latter category, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Let me pull this article up. This computer is being incredibly slow.
When I heard this, I've always been on the pedestal of split screen forever. But these guys are making some really good points.
Yeah, Larry is very upset about this. And when I say very upset about this, Larry has played every Halo game on the hardest difficulty and played hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours online.
Across the
on
board.
Halo. Yeah, across all the games. And when he heard this, he was like, I'm not buying Halo 5. And I'm not, I don't know.
But it's such a good connection for him, though.
I'm all about voting with your wallet. But to me, it's like, if you love this franchise, and he loves it for far more reasons than just split screen. Like, just keep playing, especially with the explanation that they give. And I know good and well that Larry is not going to be happy with this explanation. But an Empty Vial says, let me guess, hardware rendering 2 independent sources takes away from how detailed they can make the game. And so Empty Vials, you're absolutely right. But that's the idea. And they said, quote, the decision to remove split screen support from Halo 5 Guardians was one of the most difficult ones we've ever had to make as a studio. We know that for many of our fans, Halo has meant playing together with friends in the same room. We all have great memories of past Halo split screen multiplayer matches. To move Halo's gameplay forward and deliver a true next-gen experience, tough choices had to be made. Our decision was driven by a desire for scale, fidelity, and focus to ensure that we would deliver the best quality experience possible. And then he goes on to talk about the ambition of the game and how they wouldn't have been able to meet that ambition had they implemented split screen. And to me, that is a perfectly fine excuse.
It's a good exchange.
Because here's the thing. Imagine this headline. Halo 5 runs at 900p 30 frames per second. And imagine the crap storm that would happen online when they come out and it runs at 900p 30 frames per second, and the Xbox One subreddit is all of a sudden looking to the sky waiting for Jesus Christ's second return, and they're like, well, the Lord can't come back if this game the Lord has to be coming back if this game's running at 930. All right. And then so they do something, they make a design decision that will allow them to render this at what everybody expects out of these consoles now, 1080p 60 frames per second, with these huge maps and these huge levels and all this stuff. And it's like you want it all, and you can't have it all. Mm-hmm. And it's okay if you can't have it all. Like, and I understand split screen is something that has defined Halo, but series have to be able to move forward. And there are far more gamers playing online or by themselves than players that are playing these games split screen. Or else they wouldn't have removed the feature. Mm-hmm. If it's going to make that big of an impact on them financially, they would have never removed it. And that's what I keep telling Larry. I'm like, look, just because everyone on the internet is crying about it, the internet is always a vocal minority in an echo chamber of jumping on a bandwagon cause. Like, just because the top-rated comments in all of these forums is people saying, oh, I'm not buying this game if you remove split screen. Obviously, they didn't make this decision thinking, well, if we remove split screen, then there goes 75% of all the people that would buy this game. No, it is probably a fraction of a percent. And does it alleviate the pain at all for the people who rely on it? Because I know Larry likes to play with his wife, and that's fine. That's cool. But no, it doesn't relieve that pain. But does it make sense? Like, should you be able to step back objectively and look at it and say, all right, I don't like it, but I understand it, and we'll move forward. Like, I think we need to have that capacity.
Didn't it also say that we're finally getting smarter AI?
Yes,
that's huge.
It talks about how if they would have implemented split screen, they may not have been able to get the AI engine. And I understand they're probably just throwing out all kinds of stuff and seeing what sticks. But if it's a choice between split screen and improved AI for the dumb, there were many words that I could not say. The stupid Marines that you're with.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Like, have they survived more than 35 seconds in any scene of Halo?
No.
And so if they can improve the AI of both the people that are with me, and also when you're playing single player, you've got 3 other Spartans that are running with you that you can control. So they're having to run on AI. Imagine they implement split screen. The AI of those 3 characters is trash because of it. Everyone's like, well, these 3 AI players are just holding me back. And it's like, well, if they would have taken the split screen out, they could have had the improved AI in there, and it would have been fine. I'm totally cool with this. Like, anyway. I've been talking a lot. You go ahead, and I'm going to read the comments that we've been neglecting. I'm going to read them in my mind.
But here's the thing. What we just talked about was a lead-in to the next topic.
Huh?
It was a lead-in to the next topic.
Yes, but because I think I have another reaction. So let me read this. You vamp.
Oh, geez.
Right. We sound distinct by about 2 seconds. Sorry, Empty Vials. It's the new computer, man. I'm trying to get it all figured out, man. And it's just not working. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm interested in what this next reaction is.
Well, here's the other thing. Is like, this has nothing to do with graphical fidelity. They just want you to go out and buy another Xbox One to play on. And I'm sorry, Larry. Like, that's an argument Larry makes, too. And I'm just like, they would have to be retarded to think that just because they're removing split screen, that means that somebody's going to go out and buy a whole nother console, and that it's going to make some huge dent in the sales. Like, that it's going to maximize Xbox One sales numbers by removing split screen.
But I mean, I don't think it's going to be the sole reason, but Halo 5 is going to be a console seller, so it's going to happen anyways.
It's going to be a console seller, but it's not going to be a second console seller in the sense of, like, you've got 2 kids that want to play together, so you're going to buy another console for them. Like, it's not, this isn't going to create 2 console households where there wasn't 2 console households before. Mm-hmm. It may create some, but it's going to be in the hundreds. Like, not even enough to make a blip on the Microsoft radar. And so the whole, it's all about the money thing. Of course it's all about the money. But I think it's all about the money in the sense of we can sell more games because this game is going to score higher because the fidelity's better, the AI is better, the look of the game overall is better, and it has nothing to do with selling second consoles. Thank you. I know we're cute. That's why we're married to each other, Doctor. Hit that follow.
What? I know a lady that would get very mad about this.
She already knows. I told her. I called her on the phone. Anyway, this is a lead into another topic.
It is the lead in.
And I'm passionate about this because Larry and I vehemently disagree on this. So tune in on Monday. That's going to be
exciting.
It may be a 5-hour episode. And Larry might punch me in the face.
I'll just get one of those boxing bells. Ding, ding. You guys can go for it.
It's going to be great. But here's my question to you. So Halo 5 is removing the long-standing tradition of being able to play split screen. Mm-hmm. What other sequels to games have lacked an original feature that has really, peed in your cornflakes?
Well, that was actually a very tough question because I couldn't really pinpoint, like a successful series getting rid of something huge, something major. I had trouble with that. But what I did realize is there was a series out there that completely abandoned ship, that got rid of what made it popular, that got rid of what made it a franchise overall. And that was the jump from Resident Evil 4 to 5. Now, Seth talked about this a little bit at the end of Monday. It was during the after show, wasn't it?
The after party lounge. Hello, where butt bucks is a currency. And yes, you should hit that follow button, Doctor.
And it no longer was a survival horror anymore. Like the jump from 4 to 5, it's like its main focus was on the multiplaying of it. Like they brought in the mercenaries, and they brought in, you can play as the secondary character, and it was just, it turned into an action game. You no longer had to worry about things. There was no sense of intensity. Like in 4, you would have to really scavenge for your ammo. In this one, in 5, it was just so readily available. There was no sense of urgency, no sense of fear. Like I said, it went from survival to just action, to just, how fast can you do this? And
now I hear you guys talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not a resident. I'm not going to say I'm not a Resident Evil fan. I've just never played it. So I don't really know anything about it. Was this like a gradual kind of thing? Like, did it just slowly evolve into, or was it like stark contrast between?
It was a slow thing because there was a lot of improvements that happened between the first one and the fourth one that made way for this drastic shift. Like there was always that sense of unknown and fear and claustrophobia because you were always in this house or, whatever. And then when it came to 4, it really opened up. It became more in-depth, more engrossing. There was no more crazy camera angles, and it was, one of the more well-done games of that time. So what had happened was Resident Evil was setting up this genre, this style that was perfected in 4.
Okay.
And then they just shifted completely in 5. So was it a gradual change? Yes, but you can definitely see that they were going somewhere good and then just stopped. You didn't have that, like I said, you didn't have that intensity. You didn't have that strategy anymore. One of the biggest things you had to worry about in 4 was you had this case, and you always had to figure out what you can put in the case, how, like a puzzle, because you need everything, but you can't take everything. And they abandoned that. You couldn't just pick up ammunition and keep picking it up. No, you had to place it in your case, and that's all that you could have. Mm-hmm. There was no strategy. So it didn't like take away a feature. They thought that they were improving the features and did not at all. They took steps back. So, like I said, it was hard for me to pick something that got rid of a feature. They just took it too far and abandoned what we liked in the first place. Mm-hmm. So that was my thing, just the shift from RE4 to 5.
I'll allow that answer.
Well, thank you, because I just spoke a lot about it, and I can't just take it all back.
Well, I might go cut it out.
Just beep it all. Just a long beep.
And everyone's like, I can't hear, because I'm making it way louder than the rest of everything. So if you're listening in headphones, it's going to be awful. For me, most of mine are sports games ones, because that's kind of just what I'm most familiar with and what I've played the most of. So Madden 12 remove the ability to import your draft classes from NCAA football? Yes.
May I go ahead and jump in?
Yes.
Now, wasn't that because they got rid of that whole series?
No, but it wasn't. That wasn't at that point.
Okay.
So, no. So Madden 12, you weren't able to bring over your stuff from NCAA 12. The last NCAA was 14.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
That wasn't long ago.
So it was on through there, and that was a big deal to me as a guy who likes realism, because you couldn't even make custom draft classes at that time. So when you got done with the year, there were a bunch of guys who didn't exist in your franchise, like just a bunch of made up people with made up stats and all that sort of stuff. So that was frustrating. Then NBA 2K14 removed online franchise, which out of every online franchise that any game has ever done, that was the one that I got most addicted to. Me, Les, and Ben did a season where we played through almost 2 entire seasons, 82 game seasons of NBA, and they took that out, but they're adding that back in this year, I believe. So I'm excited about that. And then one of the things that never made sense to me, because it was one of those things that was like every iteration of the game after it got asked for, but when Need for Speed removed car customization, and they did like what was the Rivals,
the cops and the street riders, racers,
because I know customization's a big thing for you, and I know that was the biggest thing that they announced when they announced the reboot for Need for Speed, was the ability to customize your car.
That was what made Underground just unbelievable. Yeah, was that ability.
So Halo 5 is not alone in removing features. Now they're probably going to take it on the chin more than these other companies did for removing these sorts of things. But and there's always stuff that can come back into the game at a later time.
Well, I mean, we're seeing that the NBA games coming back with that franchise.
Yeah,
so
and Madden came back with the draft classes stuff. Like, just make your voice heard. Let them know that this is something that we want. But also don't get pissed if you get what you want and you lack in other things. Because there's only so much that can fit in a disc, and only so much devs can do at a time.
There you have it.
Boom. Can't have your cake and eat it too, which is the dumbest saying in the universe. Why in the world would you have cake that you can't
even eat? Yeah. Can I eat your cake? Can you have the cake and I eat that cake?
We can all eat the cake.
What kind of cake? Is it a lie? Butt cake? It's a lie.
Where butt bucks is a currency. All right. Moving on.
Okay, we like to have these third topics that have nothing to do with anything else. It's my favorite part. But we've talked a lot about our interest in horror movies and horror stories and horror games and all these things. It's something that we are all interested in across the board. And
except Gary. Gary himself is a ghost. And so he doesn't like those things. He finds them offensive. It's like when a hockey player watches the Mighty Ducks.
That's supposed to be inspirational.
No, it's not inspirational. There's nothing.
Does he like Casper?
Knuckle Puck's not a real thing, man. Does he like Casper? No. I can't use the words he uses to describe Casper. But we also
can't use a lot of words that he says.
Yeah. Gary cusses a lot. He's got a very
pretty disgusting.
Mouth.
But
that's why he got banished to walk the earth and work on this podcast for the rest of his life.
He went to hell, didn't he?
Yeah, he's cursed.
Oh gosh,
he's totally cursed. Moving on.
But
go ahead.
The thing about a lot of horror movies is that they kind of have that enemy that, and for a lot of series, it's iconic. It's what they're known about. So I want to propose to you a question of what have been the most terrifying and least terrifying horror monsters or villains or ghosts.
Now, you know me. When you give me these topics, I just throw a bunch of crap on a sheet of paper, and we're just going to talk about it. Now, are you going to be able... You only have one per, right?
Yes.
But you're going to jump in and talk about some of mine with me. Please?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
I got you.
Where do you want me to start? This is your topic. Where do you want me to start? Least or most? Bottom or top?
Let's start with most, so we know that where we stand on like fear level.
All right, I'm taking this one out because I don't know if that scene actually exists, but I'm going to propose it to the chat. I used to think I watched it a long time ago. You know, the movie with the clown, the Stephen King movie, a long time ago, on a night where a family friend was making apple butter, and all of us kids were unsupervised. And rather than smoking weed and having sex, we watched it.
That took 4 hours?
It was a long, long time. Yeah, apple butter takes a long time. What's up, Alex
Golly.
Robin 13? Hit that follow button. Thanks for tuning in. Or the follow button. But anyway, and there was a scene in it, maybe, I don't know, can't dig it up anymore, where a guy was laying in a bed, and he leans over the bed, and a man slides out from under the bed to talk to him. If that scene exists, please verify.
Was
for
it a
me in the
dead
chat.
guy or just a
It was
guy?
like a dead guy. He kind of looked dead. He might not have been dead. It was a long, long time ago, man. I don't know. So if that scene actually exists, can somebody in the chat help a brother out and let me know?
But I mean, like, you're talking about a specific scene in it. Like, there are thousands of people that find just it terrifying as a character.
It is terrifying. I'm terrified of clowns, but that was just one scene in it. But maybe it is the root of my clown fear, where he's in that
What?
gutter.
Oh, yeah. He's
And-
got the balloon.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. But anyway, so that scene may not exist. What I think, and this is terrifying for a different reason, just because of when the movie was made, but Count Orlok from Nosferatu,
Mm-hmm.
the costume design for him was just like insane.
Was it like the 20s?
Yeah, that movie was made in the 20s.
The makeup effects on it, brilliant.
And the silence of that movie, because it's a silent film, just adds to the mystery. It adds to, I don't know. There's something unsettling about that movie.
He just lingers. He like stalks behind people, and you just
Yeah.
feel him.
I don't know if I can think of a single. I can't think of a single movie like horror figure that's as iconic. Well, I mean, you got like Freddy and Jason and those sorts of things, but iconic and unnerving as Nosferatu, just kind of standing there, because he's always in full view in the movie, like, and he's just there. And normally when I see a monster, he becomes less unnerving. But when I watch that movie, and I try to watch that movie about every Halloween, and he's very, very scary.
Like the thing is that since Nosferatu, all other vampire films have been kind of just an offshoot of what that was. Like the only other time you really see that kind of Nosferatu style was Salem's Lot, and it's just something about it. He's just so. It's his passiveness that freaks me out. Like
Yeah.
I see this monster as being something aggressive and always after you, but he's just kind of there.
It's almost a more realistic picture of what a monster is like.
Doesn't he travel in a boat? Like
Yeah.
he can't travel fast anywhere. He's just.
Well, it's the 20s. No one could travel fast anywhere.
I mean, he can't transport or fly. You know, like those
Yeah,
kind of
right.
vampires.
Like, but it's more. It's a better picture of what real life monsters are like. Most serial killers are people who are charming and inviting, and you know, very, very passive at first until the switch flips and they become somebody totally different. You never hear somebody say, "So and so's a serial killer," and they're like, "Yep, knew it." Normally, it's like, "I'd have
Oh.
never imagined."
He was
Never
always so
would've
nice.
guessed. Yeah. And so, to me, that's just a more realistic picture. Empty Vial says, I think you're thinking about Little Monsters from 1989. Howie Mandel played a crazy monster that visits a child, and his doorway is under beds.
You would remember that, though, because Howie Mandel's character is like this bright blue Sully kind of monster.
What's that movie called?
Little Monsters.
Little Monsters.
I remember watching that as a kid. I loved watching that. And, oh gosh, what was the other one? The Imaginary Friend, Freddy.
Nah, this wasn't it.
Okay.
This wasn't it. Sorry, Empty Vials. That's a good try. We're going to have to revoke
Drop Dead
your-
Fred.
Oh, Drop Dead Fred. That movie freaked me out. I don't know why that movie. My little sister loved that movie, but for some reason that movie.
Because that
freaked me
actor's
out.
just crazy.
I think maybe it's because I always got that movie and Beetlejuice mixed up.
Mm.
I was like, I don't know who's who. But anyway, the next one on my list was Lisa from PT, and PT is just terrifying in and of itself.
Oh yes, it's cool. It's cool. It is.
But just her like the glitchiness and the floatingness, and the fact that the very first time you see her, you poop your pants because she scares you, like, and the fact she can be outside that window, and Lisa was just really terrifying to me.
You know, when I proposed this question, I actually didn't go outside the realm of
Movies.
movies.
Oh,
Huh.
but Lisa was one of the only characters that I saw in my own house. Like, and when I say see, I don't mean see.
Hello, Jabba.
What's up, Jabba the Pug? When I say see, I don't mean I like legitimately saw her, but like I could imagine her and project her into my own house because the house in that demo was so real. Like, and so Larry said it's one of the only horror things that ever made him nervous to wander around his own house, and it's because of that.
It's got that hallway, and you got a nice little hallway here.
And she's normally standing right at the end of it. Job of the Pug asked, "Why not Thursday?" I'm traveling tomorrow with my wife. We're going to my in-laws' house for a couple days, so I'm not going to be here. So welcome to We Wapik Wednesday.
Whatever we want Wednesday.
That's right.
We Wapik.
And we just watched this Monday, but and maybe it's because it's fresh in my mind, but the concept of the villain in It Follows is terrifying to me.
Now, I didn't see that one.
Hold on.
But what's wrong?
I'm looking for something. Where's the hat? Where's the hat?
Oh, is it the spoiler alert hat?
Yeah.
Oh, dang, it's all over there. You want to grab it?
Yeah. Just for a moment. I'm gonna put the spoiler alert hat on. I'm not gonna spoil much because I don't want to like. So if you've not seen It Follows and you're very interested, anyway, if you've not seen It Follows and you don't want anything spoiled for you, just mute the thing for just a couple minutes. 'Cause I'm going to explain the villain in It Follows. So, the villain in It Follows is a spirit that can take the form of anybody. It can be someone you know. It can be somebody you don't know. It can just be anybody, and that spirit is always walking directly in a straight line towards its victim, towards the person that it's attached to. And you can drive away from it, you can hide yourself away from it, you can run away from it, but it's slow moving, it's stalking, it's persistent. And I don't really get freaked out too much by supernatural movies, but that movie is the single most horrifying supernatural movie I've ever seen. But the only way you can pass the spirit along is if you have sex with somebody and it gets attached to the person that you have sex with. And but if that person gets killed by the spirit, which if it catches up to you and it can touch you and kill you, then it kills you. If it can kill you, it kills you.
Yes, if it can kill you, it will kill you. Yes,
I'll allow it. But if it kills the victim, if it kills its victim, it goes to the person who it was previously attached to.
Oh, dang.
So if you have sex with somebody and that person gets killed by that spirit, it's right back on you, and it marches its way.
Gotta do a double whoopee just to get clear.
Nah, because
never clear.
You're just never clear because it's not like I go have sex with someone and it gets passed to them and then somebody else and it gets passed to them. It's like it just gets passed to that first person, and then if they die, I'm screwed again. And I'm gonna take this off now because I think that's all. But anyway, so just the sheer persistence of that spirit and the fact that it's slow, it's methodical, and it's just always there. Like regardless of how far away from it you are, you can be certain that it's walking towards you. It's really scary to me. That movie was very well done. Empty Vial says, you know what show creeped me out that was totally downvoted by critics everywhere? Mothman Prophecies.
Oh.
Anything that's grounded as supposedly being real or having some type of this really happened just freaks me out. But now, anytime I'm driving in the black and night, seeing red lights just sends chills up my spine.
Well, I'm from West Virginia. I lived about, I don't know, an hour and 45, maybe 2 hours from Point Pleasant. So I grew up knowing this story, and I've actually never seen the movie, but I know that it's quite the tale around those parts. I've always just figured it was just, one of those tall tales. So it's a good one. Shout out to West Virginia people getting freaked out over a man who's a moth.
Yes.
We're like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've been talking a lot. Give me yours.
Oh,
I'm to my last.
Oh, you want to do your first ones?
Yeah.
All right. So the one that terrified me the most is the one that stuck with me the longest. All right. So here's the scene. I'm 11 years old. My sister was dating this guy who I thought was like the coolest dude ever. Now I'm an adult and I realize that he was really into Insane Clown Posse and a lot less cool than what I thought he was. So
He was also really into snapping pictures of you while you slept, but you didn't have that.
I was not here nor there. So they were in their room, or my sister's room. We lived across the hall from each other. I was like, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" And he's like, "We're gonna watch a movie." It's like, "Oh, can I watch it with you?" And they laughed, and they were like, "Yeah, you can watch it with us." So here I am, again, 11, sitting at the foot of this bed, and they put in the remake of House on Haunted Hill. Not the one from back in the day, but the one that was made in 99.
Great year. It was a good year.
So
Y2K bug. Everyone
I was also freaked out about that too.
Of course you were.
So I'm watching the movie, and the basis of it is this insane asylum gets overrun by the crazy people, and it creates hauntings, and then people are staying there for money. There's a particular scene where this lady has a camera, and she's down in the basement, and she's looking through the viewfinder, and she's seeing like surgeons like on this old table that's nothing's there, but she's seeing it through her camera. And there's a way that you can just kind of defocus your eyes so you just kind of see a blur. I was doing that a lot during this scene. But she's standing there, she hears something behind her.
You can also just close your eyes, right?
I know, but I was a child. So there it was. And she turns around, there's this dude in the back just kind of twitching. And out of nowhere, this dude shoots up into the camera. The dude's just one giant smile, no eyes, and he just goes like that. Freaked me out. I kid you not. I couldn't sleep well for at least 3 months. Like, it stuck with me. Now, as a 26-year-old, it might not be as terrifying, but I also understand that if I watch it, it might bring up some of those old memories. But like, no other horror scene or horror creature had scarred me as that scene did in my entire life. Terrifies me. Or it did. I need to revisit it and see what it's like.
It's probably not as bad now.
Probably not.
Until it sends you into some sort of tizzy and I'm having to visit you at certain hours.
Yes, please.
All right. Well, my most terrifying comes from my favorite horror movie of all time, The Strangers.
Oh, yes.
The three villains in The Strangers. That movie to me is so scary because it's so deeply rooted in reality. Now, there is a little bit of a sense of like villain omniscience within it to where it always seems like the killers are a step ahead, but it's not so much so that it's like just completely and totally out of the realm of possibility.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But the fact stands that in this world, there are people who have that little regard for human life that they don't consider murder to be wrong. It's not that they don't consider murder to be wrong, but that they consider murder to be a sport,
entertaining,
and terror to be a sport. And there are two incredibly unsettling scenes in that film. And the first is the one where it's focused on
Liv Tyler?
Yeah, on Liv Tyler. And in the back,
in the kitchen scene, yeah.
Yep, in that kitchen scene, in the back, you see the one killer with the bag on his head, with a burlap sack on his head, slides into the shot, unseen, and it's just unsettling. But the other one is before any of it begins, when they get the knock on the door at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they go, and the light bulb's been turned down, turned so that it's off, and the girl goes, "Is Tamara home?" Because now I've decided if anyone comes to my home and asks if Tamara's home, I'm going to be like, yeah, come on in. I got some errands to run, but you can hang out with Tamara as long as you want, all right?
The thing I love about The Strangers is that when it comes to monsters and villains, they're very cookie cutter. They're very zombie-ish. They're very just like, that ominous presence. But I really love how the characters in The Strangers, the villains, have their own specific personalities. Like, you got the professional, who's the one that knows what he's doing, the one that knows how to really freak these people out. You got the lackey, which is the girl in the black hair, who just kind of followed suit, knew her position. Then you had the wild card, which is the blonde one, who was just a maniac. I loved that because in a lot of horror movies, the villains, the monsters aren't real characters. They're just the problem. They're what the characters are trying to run away from. But it's very interesting because you can see that these people are human, and they're just off the deep end. I love that. It's fascinating.
At the very end, when
spoiler hat.
At the very end, when they're bleeding out on the ground, and Liv Tyler asks them, "Why are you doing this?" And the man responds. No, one of the girls responds.
Blonde-haired girl.
She says, "Because you were home."
Because you were home.
Because you were home. And it's like...
Let's disregard.
That is entirely within the realm of possibility. In that movie, on the cover, it says it's based on a true story. And I looked up what the story was. And it's actually not based on a true story at all. It's an adaptation of 2 true stories. The first being the Charles Manson murders. And then the second one being a string of robberies that took place because people were going up to doors and knocking on them. And if no one came to the door, they'd rob the house. And so you can see how it all plays into this. But that whole idea that just like, here are 2 people in the midst of one of the most tumultuous times in their relationship because, he's proposed to her. She said no. They have this falling out. He had this romantic evening planned. And like, you kind of see the death of a relationship placed into the perspective of 2 people who don't just have a disregard for relationships, but a disregard for life in general. And it really just places into perspective, like, this girl just really wasn't ready for the commitment. It wasn't that she didn't love this guy. It was that she just wasn't ready for it. But commitment can be just as short-lived as someone knocking on your door and figuring out your home and then trying to murder you. So will you marry me, Dizzy?
Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like, I love that movie. It's fascinating. It's a blast. But I can't view it the same way anymore because Dennis Reynolds.
Yeah. Whenever that scene comes on, that's where I get kind of taken out of it. But then...
Spoiler hat.
He gets his head blown off. And I'm like, all right, I'm back in it. Which is it's one of those scenes that you see it coming. You're like, you know this is going to happen. And then it happens and it still scares the crap out of you. And that also plays on that movie also plays on one of my biggest fears of windows at night. Looking out your windows and being like, come on. Stop just gazing out the window. There are people trying to murder you out there. But anyway. All right.
That was our most terrifying monsters. Now we're going to go to least. Like, what are the monsters that were built up to be this iconic, just make you pee your pants that just has no effect on you?
I have several. One of them is lumped into one category of the 80 slashers villains.
Those started out scary, then became campy.
I think the number one thing about them is that has a disconnect for me is I'm just not a big like slasher guy.
Yeah,
I'm not a big gore guy, and so like Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, all those guys, I'm just like, nah, I'm good. Like, I can't really pinpoint why they weren't scary to me, but the whole like, and I always get Jason and Michael Myers mixed up. Like Jason can't be killed, right?
Essentially.
So that whole thing of like he's kind of got like this plot armor of I can't be killed makes him less terrifying to me, just because again, a removal from reality, like that doesn't exist. So but then another one, and I hate it just because
you love it
because I love the movie so much. I'm going to tell this story. I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before. So Larry and Ben were over at my house one day when I was living in Collinsville. I was living in my brother's basement, and we watched the first chapter of Insidious, which is in my top 5 scariest movies of all time. Just because they did such a good job with atmosphere. And I love that movie was made by the guys who made Saw, and what they wanted to do was prove to us that they could scare us without, graphic gore. Yeah. And so we watched that movie, and I think Ben had seen it like 5 or 6 times, and Larry had watched it once. And the scene where the lady is walking through the house with the laundry basket and cleaning up her kid's room, and then it turns into the kid dancing in the living room to Tiny Tim. You can see him like in the corner of the laundry room when she walks through. Like it's not for but 1.5 seconds or something like that, but like you just catch a glimpse of him. And Ben, having seen the movie 6 times, had never noticed it, and I didn't notice it the first time. And Larry was like, "Stop, rewind it." So we rewound it, and there's that kid just standing in the corner, and it's like that's real unsettling. The scene where they're going back and forth with the conversation between the guy and his wife and his mother-in-law, and it's going back and forth, and then Darth Maul's behind him.
Mm-hmm.
That was Darth Maul, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're like, killed him off in Star Wars. We're bringing him back in Insidious. I love the horror in that movie. I love the atmosphere in that movie. I love that it's these false crescendos of tension where it's like, oh, something scary is about to happen. Nope, you're let down. And then it just intensifies that more. But it loses me in the last 15 minutes.
Yep.
You know what else is scary about that film? Is the going through the pictures and them realizing that the old lady's in all those pictures. That terrifies the crap out of me too. But the last 15 minutes introduces not really a character, but a concept and an area, and what ends up in the next 2 movies being sort of a character, because it develops and progresses. It doesn't get any better in the next 2 movies. But is the idea of the further, and that there's this like extra dimension of time and space where these things exist that can come over into our realm and attach themselves to people who can't defend themselves and yada yada yada. And it was just, I just sat there, and there were some creepy things like in the living room when the family kills themselves in the living room. Like that was creepy to me, and just the smiles on their faces when they're dead. That's a little unnerving, unsettling. But the whole idea of the further just takes you out of the realistic atmosphere that they create in the other hour and 30 minutes of that movie.
That's true.
And they spend even more time in the further in chapters 2 and 3, and it's just like this isn't good. Like I don't know, and it's one of those things. Also, I'm like, I don't know how they could have done it better. Like I complain about it all the time, but I'm like, I don't know how it could have been done any differently. There's probably 1,000 ways it could have been done differently though. But yeah, the further just wasn't that scary. All right, what's your least, and then I'll give you
my number one least is the guy from Sinister. Because when I saw him, I thought 2 things. I thought, whoa, this dude would be a successful alternate costume for Kane, the wrestler in WWE. Because he looks like, he'd just be facing off with Undertaker in that mask. But I also thought that he looked like Mick Thompson, the guitar player for Slipknot, because he had long black hair, squared off metallic looking mask.
I gotta remember what the Sinister villain looks like.
That's Sinister from X-Men.
Okay,
yeah. It looks like the guitarist for Slipknot.
Mr. Boogie.
Yeah, that's all I see.
Yeah, that mask. I wish we had the thing. Yeah, the whole mask thing. It scares me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I found Sinister very scary. What do you think about the movie as a whole?
I mean, I can't really tell you, because when I saw the enemy, the monster, I just kind of lost it. I lost the intensity, because I was like, okay, he's getting ready to rip a crazy solo right now, and just wait for something.
I like that movie because it plays, and I think we've had this conversation already, but it plays on the trope of like new house, like moving into a new house and then having secrets and it being haunted. But the secret is that the husband knew the secret all along of like what happened in this house, and he moved there so that he could live in the space where the murders happened that he was writing his book about. Like I love the idea of taking something that you could see as an overplayed trope in horror movies and then adapting it in a unique way. And then I just think that the idea of finding a box in the attic, like we're about to move into our new house in a couple weeks, and if there's a box in any space, I am not touching it.
He's gonna burn it.
That's right. We're just burning that thing. And the whole like family's hanging in the back, the guy hanging in the backyard. That was really scary to me. That movie's terrifying to me. And yeah, I understand. It goes to show you a character can make or break a movie. Yeah. And and one design choice, one choice in a movie can make or break it. Like The Further breaks Insidious to me, and the costume design for that character breaks it for you. Let's see what The Delinquent says. Zombies would be the least scary monster concept. Yeah, we all love zombie movies, but there are some factors that make them lose their scariness. For starters, their rotting corpse cannot outrun a healthy, fit human.
It's true.
Rule number 1, cardio. Mine is Chucky. The whole concept, anything that's like, that's not really, like Cujo, those sorts of things where it's like, those things aren't really monsters, but you're making them monsters. Like a possessed doll, that doesn't do anything for me. And then you got The Bride of Chucky, and
it becomes
became
a comedy. Yeah.
But even the first Chucky, I was like, this is the dumbest idea for it's just a dumb idea for an enemy.
I can agree.
I don't really have much else to say about that. Chucky's just a bad enemy. And what's up, Joey McNugget?
Yeah,
Job of the Pug says, I can't really count zombies as horror. Is that because they're overplayed, or is it because they're not particularly scary?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing in Walking Dead, it's become just a suspense, a thriller, just another obstacle.
And what we're seeing in The Walking Dead is that the zombies aren't really the thing to be afraid of anymore. They've learned how to manage the zombies. It's all about how to live now. But that's a vampire movie. 28 days. Is it 28 Days a Night? 30 days. 30 Days a Night. Yeah, that's a vampire movie. But I love that movie. That movie's just fun.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a fun movie.
Seeing a dude get his head cut off right with no cuts.
I just love the end of that movie where they think they've won, and then it goes to that airplane view, and it goes to the next town because now that town's contaminated. I just love that. Job of the Puck says that Chucky scares him.
Oh, man.
Not me, man. Not me. All right, well, let's get out of here. We'll stick around in the chat. I got a question for you for the after
snap.
Party, so stick around. And then, so thank you guys for tuning in. We are 3 Topic Thursday. We get together every Thursday, talk about 3 topics. You can follow us right here on twitch.tv/player3podcast, or you can watch the archive of this video on youtube.com/player3podcast. Be on the lookout. We've got some interesting announcements coming in the next couple weeks, and we are very, very excited about those. And also tune in Monday to hear me and Larry probably pull out some guns on each other. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Pull some guns out.